In this episode of the Different Podcast, Steve Chalke and I talk about the human instinct to keep our distance from what is hard or challenging or doesn't make sense. Via talk of playing hockey, having asthma, and wondering how God would figure in a game of top trumps, we chat about the ways some beliefs leave us unable to manage the joy and pain of life and actually cause us harm rather than helping us. And we think through where God might be in all of this. This was a hope-filled, honest and enlightening conversation. We trust you will find it helpful and hopeful too. Steve, so I used to play a bit of hockey, which is hilarious to think about, but it was proper fun, isn't it? Hockey. It's quite violent as well.
I've never played hockey in my life.
Oh, you'd love it.
Yeah, no, it is violent. I've seen it.
Those
sticks.
I got
get their ankles.
Yeah.
Missed the ball.
Yeah, I got a ball in the eye.
Oh, no.
One of those solid hockey balls.
But then I had to play rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have to. I chose to. I chose. They didn't force me. I used to love football best, and cricket a bit, but they made me play on the wing for rugby.
Of course, the clean. Yeah, you were the clean shorts brigade.
Yeah, and run fast down the app. But every now and then you got,
tap.
Yeah, and you had about 6 people laying on top of you. That was bad, but not as bad as hockey, I guess, being hit in the eye.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, it was when I was at secondary school, but so there was this person on the team who, whenever we were needing to defend, this person would shout really loudly. So if there was going to be a corner, she would shout really loudly and she'd go, "Turn and face," which is the most frightening thing you can do when you know there's a hard ball that's about to come.
That's why you get hit in the eye.
Yeah, exactly. But she just used to shout this, "Turn and face," and everything in you was like, "Oh, I'm scared." But actually, it was the right thing, because then you knew, actually, then I know what to do and I know how to to move to one side if I need to protect myself or whatever. So this notion of turn and face, and that phrase has stuck with me and has echoed for me, particularly in my understanding, a kind of spiritual view of life.
Yeah.
Turn and face around challenges, adversity, things that don't make sense, when everything in us is wanting to go, I'll just ignore that because that's too complex for me to understand.
Run away from it.
Yeah, just run away. I'll find, and people do all sorts of things, don't they? They find escape hatches and come up with crazy theology and even do things to numb themselves rather than turn and face what's difficult.
Do you know that's why the football team I played for, we never won? Because everyone was too scared to go in the wall.
There you go.
Yeah, the same thing, isn't it? Like, I'll just stand here while someone kicks a ball at me about 60 miles an hour.
Get that nasty mark on your legs. But it's
no
true,
wonder they pay professional footballers so much.
Especially the defenders. But that notion of turn and face and almost like square up to what's tricky rather than running away from it. I was having a great cup of coffee with a mutual friend of ours just yesterday, and we were talking about how, and maybe it's as we get older and all the rest of it, but how it's so important that we talk about the things that in our younger years we were like, well, we're not going to talk about that because, that's a long way off, or the things that are hard. So, finding escape routes rather than turning and facing. And we create all sorts of weird theology sometimes.
Yeah, and philosophies as well.
Yeah.
No, I grew up with a bit of that because, I used to go to church when I was a kid to a Sunday school, which I gave up going and got fed up with it. And then went back eventually because of this girl that I fancied,
Mary.
which is a different story. But at this Sunday school, which used to be on Sunday afternoons, once a year we used to have a trip down to the coast. We were in South London. We used to go down to Eastbourne on a coach.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. But the Sunday before, because we'd always go on Saturdays, so 6 days before, our Sunday school leader would pray, and he would always pray that it would be a really sunny afternoon the following Saturday. Lord, we pray for a sunny, cloudless day on the beach as we have fun together. And then we go on the coach the next Saturday, and everybody would take their Packer Max. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
My mum would give me and my
What colour
brother
was
and
yours?
2 sisters. Mine was a blue one.
Oh, mine was orange.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Anyway, so there was I with my Packer Mac and all that kind of stuff off the beach. So it was obvious to me that my mum didn't quite trust God. So she was hoping, but on the other hand, better have a Packer Mac just in case. But, my memory of it was, sometimes it would be a glorious sunny day and then God will get all the credit. Prayer works. But when it was tipping down with rain and you stood there on the beach in your Packer Mac all day and were glad to get back on the coach, God never got the blame. He always got the credit, but never the blame. And I've discovered that a lot through life. I got a friend who... once a month, I used to have to go and be at a board meeting, and they would pick me up, and we'd drive down to this particular town where this board meeting was happening, and she'd pray that we get a space in the multi-storey car park every month. And by then, I was in my 30s, I used to laugh at this. And then every time we got a space, she used to ridicule me and say, there you are, you've got not faith.
Yeah.
But every time we didn't get a space and we drove round and round and round and then went off somewhere else to search, I noticed again, she went very quiet about God's role in this.
So, yes.
But it's an inadequate theology. That's the point, isn't it? Because life is full of crap as well as joy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But this creation of God as some kind of magician or butler who does our bidding.
Yeah. Well, those prayers, in the name of Jesus, amen, is a bit like I always thought a Christian equivalent of abracadabra.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it just doesn't marry up to anybody's experience of life and struggle. So it works best on those who are innocent of the struggle of life. And as you grow into the struggle of life and you lose someone you love, or, you're made unemployed, or you face some other crisis, accident, etc., things go wrong, you're seriously ill, then it all comes crumbling down, and you're forced to rethink and to reimagine.
Yeah, and so in my view, and I think it's what you just said, life has within it the pattern of death and resurrection. It just does. The sun rises, the sun sets. Do we have the seasons, we have, just built into the fabric of life is this reality of death and resurrection. Things end and then things begin.
Yeah.
But we've really struggled spiritually, theologically, philosophically, to accept that, haven't we? And so we've created God in some image to try and make sense of those difficult things like you just described, and yet it's completely inadequate.
Yeah, or even if it's just the power of positive thinking. So I had some friends, and a man and his wife, and a family with 3 children, man and his wife, and they were all good friends of mine, but she had cancer, and it was terminal cancer, and she was dying in a hospital. But the community that this family belonged to believed in the power of positive thinking. which was, and a Christianized version of that, which was the power of prayer and not doubting. And so everyone in that community was banned from doubting.
Wow.
And everyone in the community had to keep believing, and they were told that if they doubted, they might be the cause of that. The circle was broken of some sort. And I remember visiting her on my own several times because we were good friends. And I remember one time near to the end of her life when she was just saying to me, "You're the only person I can talk to about the fact that I'm dying, and I need that conversation. And I can't talk to my family and I can't talk to my friends because I become the person who's breaking the circle."
Wow.
So not only was she coping with death and all those questions, but she was coping with it pretty well alone because no one else, in a much more trivial way. When I was in my 30s, I was invited to speak at a big event, a huge event, a Christian event, because I was speaking on that kind of circuit, I suppose, and there were thousands of people there, literally thousands, in this huge venue. And on that particular evening, I wasn't the speaker, though I'd taken part, and a speaker came who I didn't know, and they was suddenly announced they were a great faith healer. And they spoke about how God could heal anything if you had faith, if you had faith, if you had faith. And so this all went on. Well, the thing was, I get asthma. I had it all my life. I have a little blue puffer and a little brown puffer. And this event was held in a very damp venue, and it was quite late at night. And in the spring, when it's damp in the air, and this was damp, I feel a bit asthmatic now, actually, but it's damp. Then that's when it gets really bad. My asthma like that. And after the whole thing had finished, all the people that could hear that I'd been sitting there and wheezing occasionally, they all said, "Let's get him to come and pray over you that you'll be healed of your asthma." And there's no way out of it. And so they all gathered around me, and he's praying away, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm standing in the middle because they've stood around me, and I think like wheezing occasionally. And all I can think of is,
fake it.
Yeah, please God, don't let them stop, because when they stop, I'm going to have to expose the fact that I'm still asthmatic. Anyway, they did stop, and he said, "How do you feel now?" And I said, "All right." Very good things. It was like, and I learned in my much more shallow way than my friend that, I had the burden. There you are. I've really got
there
asthma,
it is.
of carrying my asthma and carrying their expectations as well. All as a result of some pretty bad, as you use the term, theology or thinking about God, the abracadabra God who answers all our prayers. And then when we believe in a God who doesn't answer our prayers and stuff goes wrong and we get ill, we go, "I've lost my faith."
Yeah.
Whereas, as you say, life, suffering and death is part of what it is to be human.
So God's not in control then, Steve?
If God was in control, I put it differently. Clearly and obviously, God's not in control.
Clearly.
2 women in Britain every week are murdered by their partners. Tonight, there are endless children being beaten by their parents. There are children going without food, and I'm talking just domestically.
Yeah.
There is sexual exploitation going on, etc., etc., trauma, violence. And you look around the world at famine and war and disaster. Look at Gaza. Look at Gaza. The number of children, let alone adults, have been massacred. Massacred. The number of children, tens of thousands, who are left as orphans. having lost both parents or one or other of their parents, whose lives and peace is obliterated. And that's just the beginning. We live with suffering all around us. So if God is all-powerful, in control, well,
it's a pretty bad job.
He's doing a pretty bad job. In fact, because I knew we were going to talk about this, I looked up this quote because I knew I had it. And this is from Epicurus. Epicurus, an ancient Greek philosopher. I mean, he lived a long time before Jesus in this, and he's talking about God, but he's not talking about the God of the Bible at all. He's talking about the ancient Greek perception of the gods. And this is from his writings that we have. God either wishes to take evil away, or is unable, or he's able and unwilling, or he is neither willing nor able, or he is both willing and able. If he is willing but unable, he's feeble, which is not in accordance with the character of God. If he's able but unwilling, he's envious, which is equally at variance with God. If he's neither willing nor able, he is both envious and feeble, and therefore not God. If he is both willing and able, which alone is suitable for God, from what source then does evil come? Or why does he not remove them? And here we are all these thousands of years later, and that's still the question. The mystery of agony and suffering. If I were God, I'd click my fingers and I'd wipe out all suffering for every child and deficits in national budgets. But it's not that I'm not God, although I am not God or anything like it. It's that it's clearly not the wrong perception of God. Christians, we talked about Christians a lot, but other religious groupings and faith groupings, the same thing. I've been to churches where they sing that song. You probably know it. Our God is stronger. Our God is stronger. I'm a bad singer.
Yeah. It's late. It's okay.
And we talk about God the Almighty.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you understand the history of where this came from, it's a Hebrew thought from ancient Hebrew people who were surrounded by other nations with other gods.
Yeah.
What they were just saying, well, if your God was weak, he's no good. Our God is more worth following because our God is like...
It's like a league, it's like top trumps with God, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not... Then it wasn't... Our God can do everything because often they went into a battle and got slaughtered. So life is full of crap. When I'm talking too much, but I could tell you a story about a wedding I went to.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that built into this thing, though, seems to be, and I'm sure I've heard you talk about this, it might even have been at church at some point, Steve, but because we personify God, don't we? And I don't mean the person of Jesus. I mean, we personify God. So when people talk about God, they're often describing a man, so male, with big muscly arms, floating on a cloud, looking down upon creation. That's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's untrue, isn't it? It does link into what I was just thinking. So Cornelia had breast cancer. She's had it a couple of times. This was the first time around. And anyway, I was planning to do the marriage of somebody I've known since he was a child, and to his girlfriend, his fiancée. And Cornelia was taken into hospital, and Cornelia had, we had a friend called Jackie, and she was taken into hospital. Cornelia went into Guy's Hospital. Jackie went into St Thomas's Hospital, both in central London. And on the Saturday that Cornelia was having her operation for her breast cancer, the wedding that I was taking was planned. And so I said to Cornelia, look, I'll just get someone else to do it. And she said, well, that's daft because I'm going to have an operation and I'll be out of it anyway. And she knows this young couple as well as I do. And she said, and they planned their wedding for ages and you've talked it through with them and you should go and do that. So I went to do that. And there I stood at the very moment my wife was having an operation and not knowing what the result would be and whether she'd live or die, et cetera, over the next few months. And I was saying these vows to this couple, you know, because you repeat them because I'm the vicar, if you see what I mean. So I say, and repeat after me, I take this woman to be my lawfully wedded wife, to be my lawfully wedded wife. You know, they repeat, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better or worse, et cetera, to love and to cherish in sickness and in health until death parts us. And as I was saying these words, they were repeating them back, I was thinking, there is no way, they're early 20s. There is no way in the world you can possibly have access to what you're just so happily signing up to.
Oh, aren't these lovely and romantic?
Because when you're 20-something, you're going to live forever, you're immortal, you're eternal, and life's filled with happiness. But you're going to eventually face these things. The reality is they were happily married. They're a fantastic couple. And that it's at least 10 years on from there now. And a bit of life, reality is dawning on them. They're parents, they're great parents. Cornelia survived, and she's had breast cancer again since, but survived both times and gone on. But that weekend, Jackie died. And in that, everything is encapsulated. The joy of that celebration of two families coming together, of a community experiencing blessing and joy and happiness. Me and Cornelia struggling with the pain of suffering, and Jackie, whose life ends. And all of that is part of our human experience.
So where is God in that, Steve? And what is God like? Because if God isn't this personification of some muscle man, which I think is really a reflection of the tribal God, isn't it, that you talked about? Because I don't believe God's that, you know. God is different to that. Well, what is God like, and where is God?
Well, the God that Epicurus was sort of talking about, you know, of course, was Zeus, the god of power. You know, the picture of God of power and anger. And yet the picture of God revealed through Jesus is the child, the baby that's born and laid in an animal feeding trough. The baby born into poverty, who is a refugee, who is a cast out one, who is a nothing in society. And the God whose life is a life of self-sacrifice and giving for others, who in the end is arrested on a trumped-up charge, tried, wrongly found guilty, and executed. And this is the person that somebody like me, a Christian, follows. And I often think it's an irony, isn't it? We actually follow, guys, somebody who spoke up for what was right and was executed. And we get upset if we got a toothache, you know, kind of.
And try and find a way out.
Yeah. And so I think this kind of philosophy that if you're a nice guy, nice things happen to you is not true, is it? You're a nice guy and bad stuff happens, and sometimes the good stuff happens to the guy who's treading on everyone. But for me,
Mm.
How do you deal with that and understand that in life? I think that's why I am a follower of Jesus. I've got a friend his name's Tony Campolo, who I know. He's 90 and he's been a friend and mentor to me for donkey's years. I first met him in my early 30s, and I would say, back then in his heyday, he was the greatest communicator I ever met in my life. He studied under Albert Einstein. He's so intelligent, and he's a professor at a university. And I got to know him, and he was so kind to me and kind of nurtured me and mentored me. And now he's almost 90. He lives in a senior citizens home in the States, and he's had a severe stroke, but his brain's alert and he can communicate. And I go see him and I talk to him on FaceTime, and I'm going to see him next month actually, which is really great. So I owe him lots, so I'm happy to just go and spend time with him. But Tony, when he was at his peak, he used to tell a famous story that loads of people know, and it's called "It's Friday, but Sunday's Coming." And it's the story, and I'm not even going to attempt to do what he does, especially here, but he says it's Friday and Jesus is arrested and beaten and flogged. It's Friday and the people laugh at him and mock him. It's Friday, Good Friday, as we know it now. And the people that supported him and praised him turn their backs on him. It's Friday, and they're offered the chance to release him from the arrest that he's under, and they choose a murder instead. It's Friday, and they nail this man to a cross, the Roman Empire executing him. It's Friday, and they hang him up, and they laugh at him, and they stuff a crown made out of thorns on his head and mock him. It's Friday, and his mother stands there crying. It's Friday, and his friends are in disarray. It's Friday, and the world is ending for everyone. And then Tony used to say, but Sunday's coming. Jesus is taken from the tomb, and he's taken from the cross, and he's laid down in a tomb, and he's dead. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Because on Sunday, Jesus has risen from the dead. On Sunday, all those who wept rejoice. On Sunday, the tables are turned. On Sunday, there is hope. And you know what I've realised slowly, Jill? I learned that the word hope, the Hebrew word for hope, the Aramaic word for hope, the language that Jesus spoke, it's a very literal language. It's not conceptual. And the word hope in Hebrew and Aramaic is from the root of the word for rope, a rope. Hope is a real rope. Hope's not an airy thing. I just kept saying that.
Airy. It's late. Airy fairy.
Yeah. Hope's not an airy fairy thing. Hope is a rope. It's something tangible. It's something real.
Yeah.
It's Friday, but Sunday's coming.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, Steve, that I think as well, when I think about all the times where in my own journey where I'm like, oh, God, Jill, don't run. You've got to turn and face this. You've got to, like all of that stuff. Actually, there's this thing where other people bring the Sunday into your life. Do you know, because they say, we'll come and visit, or we'll do this, or we'll do that, or we'll be there for you, or I think like there's this, it plays to that thing that you often talk about, that we make sense of who God is in community. We make, don't we? We make sense of who God is, the very nature of God through our relationships with one another. And in your suffering, I can bring hope for you.
We find life in Peter, I don't know when we're supposed to stop.
You keep going, I'm not here.
All right, because there's more to say, and almost that Tony Campolo bit need to go on there, but I don't know.
Start again, sorry.
Okay. And I think, Jill, we find hope in one another. One of the strange things about my life, probably this happened to me more than most, for reasons I'll explain. It was my 40th birthday, long time ago now. And of course, I'd begun Oasis. It was about 10 or a little bit more years, 10-ish years old. And it was, we had, I don't know how many staff we had, but it had grown into a thing, you know, and running all sorts of projects. And we had a board meeting on my birthday. And I remember where it was. And I remember, because it'd been going 10 years, the subject coming up for the first time. And it was, what about succession planning? What if you're not here, Steve?
What about when you die?
What about, yeah, and that's what I said. And it was like, what if you go under a bus?
Yeah.
You fall under a bus. We ought to think about succession planning. And then I got some papers about succession planning from Harvard Business School, and I read them all. And from that day till this, actually, as you probably know, people always say, well, what are we going to do when you die? And I now look back on it and I realise I was only 40. You know, I was made, I was made to feel like I was just on my last legs and I was going to peg it, you know, but here I still am. I've avoided buses so far.
That phantom bus driver stalks.
But, you know, but you, because of that, actually, it's been a reality, as you'll know. I've lived with people saying, well, what about Oasis Beyond You and all that kind of stuff? And I think we're ready for that, you know. You're probably pleased to see the back of me. But I think everything will continue. I mean, if I die, everybody...
You even said that on a meeting yesterday.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but people, you know, they'd do a nice funeral and all that, give me some flowers or something. But, you know, all the schools are reopened and the churches are reopened and all the projects, the beauty projects we're doing, everything here. And around the world, it'd probably take them about 5 weeks to find out, actually, you know, kind of. So there you are. So all of that. But that process of the last, how old? Well, it's 25 years or more, because I can't do the maths. That process, that has, is more, 28 years or 26, I don't know, 20-something years.
So as long as I've been in Oasis.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the whole time you've been here. They've been planning for my death.
You've just spotted that.
But what it does...
I'm the plan, Steve.
Yeah, but what it does do, Jill, the upside of it is I realise we're all temporary fixtures. Yeah. You know, you spend a long time not here, dead. Yeah. You know, so we're all about building something for the generation beyond us.
Yeah.
Aren't we? We're all about creating legacy in this life. And that in this life creates hope.
Exactly. Yeah. And working out, who am I and who am I becoming now? Because that's where that hope's going to live, isn't it? Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you, Jill.